Hey, this is Tyler White. I'm going to talk to you today about yucca and how to make cordage out of it, so stay tuned. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about yucca. Yucca is a grocery store plant. What I mean by that is there's multiple uses that you can get from yucca. Right now, this is pretty indicative of the area that I'm in Utah, where it's really, really small and kind of spiny, like a little baby-sized yucca. I'm fairly certain that most people in the U.S. know what this plant is, they just don't realize what they're looking at. The majority of people in the U.S. will see yucca, ornamental yucca, in places like the little islands that you see in places like Walmart with, little spiny bushes are growing. People have them in their front yards. They use them as a decorative plant in a lot of different locations. So it's good to know what this plant is and what you can use it for. Now, yucca normally will grow a stem that comes right up the center of here. For this small plant, it should be about that tall, and they can get large enough in places like Arizona that the diameter is big enough to make a quiver of arrows from. So they can get huge, giant size. Now there's many cousins of yucca. That's why they have different sizes, different petal shape, different attributes. But all of them have the similar fruit, the similar bell, the similar fibers, and the similar root system. We're going to work on natural cordage today, but just as a side note, the other things that can be done with it, that stem can be used for a hand drill. The bells that come off of it can be eaten straight up, or you can take a large volume of them, crush them down in a handkerchief and get water out of them. You can cook them and throw the water out to get rid of the saponin, which is the soap, and then eat the bells naturally. You can eat the fruit that's left over. You can take the root from this one right here and grind it up, and it makes an amazing soap. Or, as they did anciently here, you can take this stem and turn it into string. So let's talk a little bit about how to process this string. First off, especially these little ones are incredibly sharp at the tip. Very, very, very pokey. So what I'm going to do is I try to go from underneath the plant so that I'm not digging in on the top and catching my hands in those sharp spines, and I just kind of comb it up. Once I've combed it up, I can reach in here in the base and separate one of these. Now, if I'm only taking a couple of them from a small plant like this, I'm not hurting that at all. It's essentially irrelevant to the plant in the long run. If I have to make shoes out of it or something, I might need to take the entire plant. And when that's the case, I'm going to use the stem that it has as a hand drill. I'm going to use all the fibers for the shoes, and I'm going to turn that root system into some soap. Maybe crush it up, put it in a bandana, squeeze the juice out of there for soap. So, I grabbed this dead one. Normally they have a little spine here on the top. Unless you're using it for sewing, I like to pop that spine off the top. And then essentially what we're going to use is this flat part. Now, what I'll do, often do is just use the back of my knife to scrape off the green, okay? This green can be collected and used as soap as well. So don't just automatically discount it as something non-usable. I'm not going to do that today, but we'll show you that that's a possibility. Now, once you've got that part scraped against it, another way that I can remove this stuff is I'll just squish it against my thumb right there and use that 90-degree spine. And that gives me a little more control on what part of the green slimy part I'm removing from the leaf. Okay, I've removed that outer part, that outer goo, and this gives me a little strip of fibers. Ideally, what I would do with this little strip of fibers is get like 10 or 12 of these, or however many I need to make the rope I want, and I leave them in the sun for a day. What that's going to do is dry it out, make it easier to pull apart. That doesn't mean that you can't make fibers while it's still green. That's just the ideal situation, is to leave it there. If you want super high quality rope, you'll take a full plant worth of this stuff, scrape it, and then leave this in the water for 1 to 2, maybe 3 weeks, depending on how long it takes to dissolve. And that's called retting. And essentially what it's going to do is the water is going to dissolve all of the green off of that. There's natural bacteria that exists that'll break it down, and it will leave this really soft white fiber. And that soft white fiber is phenomenal for making rope. Now, once I've got this, I'm going to separate it just like I would with any fiber. I like to break it into a bunch of little pieces and then flip at least half of them, because what you're going to do when you flip it is cause your rope to not taper as much. And when your rope doesn't taper, you have a more systematic looking rope. So we'll flip a couple of those. So we've got a fat end and skinny end and skinny end and a fat end. Try to break these down just a little bit skinnier here, because I'm after all of these fibers. Now, I can just automatically start twisting these and make a super short rope, or I can take a couple of little ends. I can take 2 ends from one side and 2 ends from the other side and put them together at the top in order to start my double twist. So what I mean by that is I'll put them together like this, and then maybe even add a strand right here for strength and put another piece in there, and that's going to double the length of my rope. Now, just like any other twisting rope, all that you need to do is just twist it away from you with your right hand, twist it towards you with your left hand until this starts to kind of twist against itself. And it's the exact same way that you do any other natural cordage. And eventually you'll start to get this little twist where it twists against itself. Looks like that, okay? Now I'll just continue to go away, and then while pinching with my left hand, I come towards. I take the top string, go away, and bring them both towards, the top away, and both towards, and it'll eventually start to make my twisted rope. Those are the ends that I have from earlier that I'm going to cut off. Now if it's sticky enough, you can just roll this down your leg, pin it, roll it down the leg again, pin it, and it will just start to automatically roll. That is like 5 minutes worth of work that I just sped through if I do it the other way. I like the other way to start myself out, but this is how I like to finish it. And then we've got a little chunk of rope right there. Now what I would do to continue this if I wanted to, it's kind of ugly on the bottom. Let me rewrap that a little bit. What happened, and this is a good example, I didn't get enough twist on that second string. So if I twist it so that I make sure that it's tight and then start putting it together so that both strands have tension on them prior to wrapping them against themselves, I'll get a better twist. There we go. That's a more systematic looking twist. So now, if I want to extend this, I process another one and I add a leg, and then I process another one and I add a leg. I can either fold it in half like this and add it to it, or I can add one to the short leg and then twist it and add one to the other short leg and twist it. Both ways will give you a little bit of tapering, and that keeps your rope the same width all the way through. So let's clean this up a little bit. And this would be just short of what I would need to make a Paiute deadfall with. And not even close to what I would need to make sandals. Okay, so that is just a simple demonstration on how to make cordage from a yucca plant. The mechanism that you use to make cordage is the same. You just need fibers. Any fibers you can twist together and hold against themselves. The key here is knowing how to extract the cords that you need from these little prickly plants in order to get the fibers that you need to create the rope. And this is a very strong fiber. If I double wrap this, it would be enough to run a bow drill. It would be enough to do a very simple, small bow and arrow. And it's fairly strong once it dries. Once it gets super dry, it gets a little more brittle. So when that happens, you just make more cordage and replace it. All right, guys, hopefully this is valuable to you. Try this out. When you collect, make sure that you're not wiping out whole plants. Make sure that whatever you take, you don't leave a mark or show that you've been there. If this is valuable to you, leave a comment down below, hit the like and subscribe button, and I will try to get into the comments as I can to reply to any questions that you have. Thank you for watching.